Hey everybody, how's it going? How y'all doing? Welcome, welcome. Can you guys hear me okay? Give me a little vibe. Yeah, cheers to you guys. How's it going? We're just waiting on Christina. No, I'm not Kris. I'm David Castillo, head talent buyer, part owner of Saint Vitus. Nice to see everybody joining up. Christina should be joining us very shortly. What's up? Waving back. Boop, boop, boop. Little waves, little waves. Okay. Let's see. Christina. What's up?
How's it going?
We're live in the fucking his house. Cheers, guys. I'm indulging in a beer.
Oh, I should have
Here from Asbury Park Brewery.
I'm not drinking a beer. I'm drinking this.
That's dope. A little Bev check.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nghtcrwlr for this joint.
I haven't heard it in a long time.
Where you at?
Oh man, I'm in New Jersey. Yeah, I'm at my house right outside Asbury Park, just doing my thing. Trying to stay safe and healthy here. How about you guys? Where are you right now? Tell everybody.
We're in Brooklyn. I'm at Isaac's place.
Yeah.
He's been like my quarantine homie. We've just been trying to work on music and reading and shit.
It's like an arranged marriage.
Yeah, definitely.
So guys, just to tell the audience here, we're here with Kris from King Woman and Isaac from BraveYoung and MSC. And basically that's kind of how this came together, right? This is an arranged marriage and an arranged podcast live stream due to circumstances, right?
Yeah, due to circumstances.
But it's a beautiful thing too. I'm glad that you guys are together, and that's always like a great thing. So I started my last kind of one of these. I did one with Brian Cook, Promotion Circles on Monday.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've been thinking about a lot too, is where would you guys be today if this wasn't happening?
I'm like, what day is it? Where am I?
I feel like I'm losing track of time too, right? Is that fucking crazy?
Yeah.
I would be on tour.
Yeah. Like Brian was like, I think I'd be in Spain somewhere.
Yeah, or my tour with Alex G was about to start, and he was gonna actually come with me.
Yeah, we'd be in LA right
yeah,
now.
we'd be in like LA right now.
Yeah.
Damn, LA sounds fucking nice. It's about to rain here for like 3 days.
I have a flight to LA for I think tomorrow or the following day, but clearly I'm not gonna be doing that anymore.
Yeah, it's just amazing in our circumstances how radically obviously things have changed, and when you're talking to musicians, they're literally all over the globe, so it's kind of it's an interesting space to start to locate ourselves. Where are we,
Yeah.
So the purpose of this is just an hour chat, kind of get into some musical histories and vibes and stuff like that. So since you guys are together, maybe you could tell us about how you guys first started hanging out and just talking, and what was the musical path that brought you guys together?
You played in Portland, right?
Yeah, we played in Portland, and a couple of my friends were telling me I needed to be friends with the Jones twins, that I was gonna love them, and so yeah, I was a fan of BraveYoung.
Now, Kris, you're gonna have to forgive me, but this was with King Woman. There's a lot of projects here that we have to be clear for our people.
Yeah, this was with King Woman, I think, right?
Yeah, we played. Didn't BraveYoung play that show?
Yeah, we played a show with them, and that's how we became friends. And then we just kept in touch from there. And yeah, so Isaac has a twin brother, identical twin, named Zach, and they're two of my closest friends. And they also have another project together that's more. What would you say? It's like, when did you start it? Like last year?
Yeah. So BraveYoung, we kind of called it quits BraveYoung has a weird history. We did that for like 10 or 12 years or something. The band started out under the moniker Giant, and then that
I never knew that.
Yeah, there was this hair metal band that had like this one-hit wonder called Giant. It was this was still in the MySpace days, and we got this MySpace message from the dude that the singer of that band or something. He was like, what the fuck, guys? He was like, this is a really shitty way to try to get famous. And we were like, dude, we're not. Have you listened to our band? This is not the same thing. But he was like, just talking about it, and then he had his label send us a cease and desist or something, which he was. I guess they were on some huge label. And then, even though he only had one hit song or something, like in the early.
Fucking loudest shit fucking ever.
That was
like,
a loud.
That was it.
Loud tour. I remember that.
Oh man, that was hilarious.
It was a loud tour. There was, I think, we had our full band at the time, and then we played with a lot of gear anyway, and then the body as well, and then we had that collaboration record, which is called Nothing Passes, and we were touring off that that particular tour, I remember just being like, this is the loudest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
Woo! You guys, that was the stress test.
Yeah.
Could I ask you, so Isaac, you make records, correct?
Well, how do you mean?
Like, produce them?
No, I mean, no, I mean.
He's like he's a composer.
I make records with
Don't be shy.
He does make records, yeah. He's being honest.
I love that.
Shout out to Emmett, I love you.
Yeah, cool. All the homies popping up in the thread. So you guys met at a show, and did you guys play together?
Yeah.
Or that was it?
Yeah.
That's how I met Kris, too. We met at Saint Vitus. My band Primitive Weapons opened up for, I'm not sure if Sonic played. I think it was King Woman and Primitive Weapons, and maybe Planning for Burial?
Tom?
Yeah.
I miss him.
I miss him, too, that motherfucker.
He's the best.
But that's how we met. And you had played with the Sonnet Boys on the West Coast doing a tour all together.
A tour. It was quite interesting. It was an interesting tour.
Yeah, so there was that whole kind of experience, and I felt like I heard of Christina as this character before I'd even met her. But a fast friendship developed there. And the birth of King Woman happened like just around, I think, all those tours, and it was such a beautiful thing to watch. And then just to see how that has kind of now extrapolated out into all these different kind of entities. Question, obviously, is, I mean, I think a lot of people probably ask you this, but it's like, where do we have so many different palettes of music, and how are we just kind of continuing to put out different release after different release after different release under all these names? Is it just like, hey, I'm running into people and I'm feeling that collaborative energy? Because I think both of you as musicians, what's interesting is like BraveYoung and The Body did all this collaborative work, King Woman and all this collaborative work. I always found that to be really interesting because my bands have mostly been kind of insular. Like, we make our shit and we go. So what are those decisions kind of like? Start with Kris and then go to you, Isaac.
I mean, my other projects are not really, I wouldn't say, they're still just me. They're just different personas.
That's also true, yeah.
I want to do like a King Woman MSC collaborative record because I love the boys. They're like family to me, but also I just really respect them as musicians. And their record is honestly one of my favorite records. It's the record I meditate to. They'll put out the MSC record. Everyone should check it out. But also I'm trying to do this Black Hole Sun cover right now with Wilson, and I'm trying to have Isaac do the string arrangements for it right now.
That's hot.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I don't know. I kind of wanted to shy away from, it's hard being in bands. It's hard dealing with other personalities. So I was like, fuck this. I want to do some shit by myself so I don't have to like wait on other people. And so I think that's one of the reasons I kind of wanted to be on my own, doing my own shit, because it's stressful. And then also having a band, like, you have to carry all that fucking gear around. I'm over that shit. I'm over it. Don't really want to do it.
And look at this motherfucker over here is building Jamaican sound systems.
Oh, God. You should see. We played in Oakland at Starline, and they had to carry the gear up a giant flight of stairs.
And it's just me and Zach now too. It's like more gear than ever, and it's just two of us.
But their sound system is sick, and it's definitely it's an interesting, unique experience. Like, I don't know many people like that are doing what they're doing, if anyone. So it's an interesting thing. But I think they should be playing in more like prestigious places, not just like venues. But we'll see. We'll see when we can start playing shows again.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's on the top of everybody's mind, and we would all love to, be able to congregate again and have that feeling. But that being said, have you been just kind of, while you're in the situation that you're in, have you guys been writing a lot? Has it been more of a chill situation?
For sure. I mean, I've been writing a ton.
I feel like I'm really on the go a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who's close to me knows this about me. It's kind of caused me to have to pause and, like, I don't know, get to do normal people shit, like enjoy books and movies. And I've still been working on stuff, like this cover I'm working on.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I don't know. It kind of feels weird to work on, like, to be too, like, aggressive with anything like that right now because there's so much going on around the world and so many deaths happening right now. But I'm, like, just, you know, easing back into it because I think everything just kind of came to a halt. My Roadburn shows got canceled. Super sad about Roadburn. That's, like, man, they put so much fucking work into that. Like, shout out to Roadburn and everybody who was, like,
Cheers to Roadburn.
yeah, cheers to Roadburn.
Legendary institution.
Yeah, legendary, and you know, I've been there. I was there 2 years in a row, and I was so looking forward to it. And Emma, also shout out to Emma because she was curating that and had Miserable and Nghtcrwlr coming to perform, which was really, really generous of her. And I'm really just heartbroken for them because they worked so hard to put that fest together, and then it was just gone, you know.
Yeah, and then for everybody who's watching this right now as well, you know, it might be 3 days, it might be 4 days, but that's like a year-round endeavor to put something together like Roadburn. We're talking about people and performers from all over the world, accommodations, getting curation, these special, like, one-off live performances. I don't think Julie Christmas has played. Shout out to Chris Enriquez, who's going to be my boy, who's the co-host of the show, who's going to drum at Roadburn for Julie. You know, they were putting in months of work to pull this off. You know, it's not like that's like an active band. So it's heartbreaking, a lot of work, you know, and even myself, you know, I'm staring down the barrel of like 60 shows that you got to move or postpone or whatever. But we're working on it, motherfuckers, and we're going to fucking make it happen.
Yeah,
as best as we can.
We have to, and that's why I think a lot of people are moving to, like, you know, Twitch and platforms like that. They're just kind of live streaming their shows. Everybody's just trying to figure out how they can still create and still perform, and a lot of artists are.
Hey, Medellin.
Touring artists are, like, you know, that's a lot of their income. So everybody's kind of having to improvise. Oh, also shout out to Kathy and Sargent House for, you know, she's been working so hard. Her and Mark have been working so hard and busting their ass, and the whole team has been busting their ass to just, like, take care of all the artists on the roster because a lot of them, you know, get their income from touring. And I know that she's been heartbroken trying so hard to do a bunch of damage control. So we love you, Kathy, and shout out to you. And also Bandcamp has been doing such a great job at supporting artists, like, huge.
Incredible.
Always been that way too.
They're
It sucks so badly that, like, the main streaming platforms that you have to, like, basically buy into and have your music so that people listen to it. But it's like, if you ask anybody that plays music or does this shit, it's like, and you ask them, like, what's your favorite one? It's like, it's Bandcamp, man. Bandcamp is the only fucking place that
blows everyone out of the fucking water.
Yeah, totally.
And they're also based in Brooklyn, in Greenpoint, so major shout out to Bandcamp. Also, that's like a local business. You know, it's not probably too far away from you guys or
well, they're also in Oakland. They're in the Bay Area.
Yeah. It's just they're incredible, and what a show of solidarity in these times to forego all of their revenue shares on that Friday, like
millions.
And it's like
millions to artists.
Millions.
No other company, and those other companies are 20
Spotify,
times the size of
crickets. It's just been crickets.
Apple Music, crickets.
Crickets.
It's just bullshit.
Yeah.
You really see who, you know, which labels are, like, truly supportive of.
I feel like
artists.
if Bandcamp if they really made a jump, like a good jump into fucking streaming somehow, like made a streaming platform that was, like, as easy to use and as, like, comprehensive as they could possibly get, you know, like. I know I would jump ship in a fucking heartbeat, dude. You know what I mean?
I think that there would be a lot of political will from the like artist side to explore things like that for sure, because you sort of see kind of where it is. I mean, you know, effectively, you know, at Saint Vitus, it's like everything's unsure. The money that I've made recently off of my electronic project Confines was all on Bandcamp recently. That's the money I got to buy a couple of groceries. So. And that's kind of like where it's at, and you won't see it coming in from anywhere else. So, and I agree with you, Isaac. I think they have a lot of political will behind them. It'd be nice to see another player jump in to the fold with, like, a better kind of point of view for artists.
Well, you have
I think it's too far off.
Yeah, it's also like you have the consolidation of, like, of basically like these monoliths of record labels, which are all kind of owned by a couple umbrella companies anyway. You know what I mean? Even if you have these offshoots that are doing their own thing or signing their own bands. Like basically they're kind of controlled, you know, by a few enormous companies. And it's like those companies, they're in bed with people who are going to, you know, turn profit for them. You know what I mean? It's not, it's just really not artist based at all. None of it has ever been. So it's,
Yeah, and it's a lot of it, I think, is older music who has the rights to it, who can stream it, you know, the one-stop shop. But for us who are
making shit
now and making things, our current artists, that's sort of what we need. And actually, reminds me, the last time I played music in front of people, I played it with you, Kris. It was your Nghtcrwlr record release show.
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was really fun. I was like, maybe 10 people would come.
Yeah, and it was a wild time. It was great. Shout out to Andy and Synthesize.
Andy, love you so much.
Autonomy.
Yeah.
That was such a fun night. It was such a good time. And that Nghtcrwlr release is a lot of you know, it's an amazing ride of like noise and trap and just a beautiful kind of juxtaposition of a lot of things that, if you know Christina, that she really likes and has explored there. If you want an adventurous listen during your quarantine times, check out fucking Nghtcrwlr. And it's all her. It's one of many personas.
That's right.
Feel that.
Schizophrenic.
Yeah, and so, guys, speaking of all of that, I want to just say that part of the reason we're doing the Age of Quarantine series is because we're all out of work. So if you want to donate to our Venmo, I think this is backwards. I got to do it backwards next time. But it's at Saint Vitus Bar with dashes in between. Help us out. And we're going to be doing this the whole time that we're holed up, man, with all your favorite artists. So we got just so much great stuff happening. Even though we're not able to give you the shows that you want, stuff like this, we're about it. So just moving from here, Kris, you're in New York now, and I had somebody over here kind of say, like, why are all these good bands kind of like in New York? Or I thought maybe they were from over here or over there. You live here now, right? I heard a rumor.
Yeah. I mean, I lived here before, and then I moved to LA, and then I moved back, but I'm originally from California. I moved from Oakland to New York a few years back, and then I ended up going to LA for some music stuff, and then I was like, fuck this, and I went back to New York. I actually lived down the street from St. Vitus. And St. Vitus is the reason I initially moved to New York, because I remember I was doing merch for a King Woman show, and there was a huge line of people, and everyone that was walking up to the booth was saying, you should live in New York. You should move to New York. You should move to New York. And I was like, goddamn, I should move to New York. And then I just moved. But
that's dope.
I'm back.
The universe is calling.
Yeah, the universe is calling, and now I'm here, and I convinced this fool to finally move to New York. He was living in Portland for, how many years were you in Portland?
Like 6.5 years.
Yeah. So, and he just moved here at perfect timing to move.
Fucking unreal.
The Nghtcrwlr video is not, someone's asking, the Nghtcrwlr video, I don't think I'm going to be, I'm just posting clips from that. I don't know that I'll be posting the full video.
Snacks only, no full meals.
Yeah, snacks only. But, you know, thanks for asking.
Yeah, no doubt. There's just so many, like, kind of, you know, different points. I kind of find it interesting, Christina, because you have all these different personas, how different people are kind of getting in. You know, maybe somebody heard Dalmatian or Kris Worldwide, and then they're like, oh my God, she's in this metal band too. So it's pretty wild. You recorded a King Woman record, is that true?
Yeah.
I saw you in the studio. There's something in the back.
It's being mixed right now. It's hard with that one. Yeah, it's being mixed right now. I need to add some more vocals, and like he's gonna be helping me with some of that as well, like the string arrangements. Yeah, all these people are asking about this Nghtcrwlr video. No, I'm not posting the full video, but my friend Michael shot it. He's fucking awesome.
There's too many fuck ups in it.
Why? It's not true, but I'm just not.
But she tried hard as fuck.
It just needs so much editing. It's just it didn't happen.
She has to,
but I have some other The song Blackjack? Yes, it will. King Woman, I don't know, Type O, some classical music.
Somebody before in the comment that was talking about Jarbo, and if Jarbo had any influence on you at all, or not really.
No.
So there you go.
No, I don't know. I can't think. Stevie Nicks. I like
Yeah.
a lot.
Fuck yeah, dude. Gold Dust Woman? Ooh.
Yeah, that's my karaoke song.
Is that, dude? All right. When we're out of the shit, we're going to karaoke at an undisclosed location in Brooklyn, and we're gonna fucking listen to that.
I have videos of you karaokeing, fool.
I'm sure you do. After a lot of these. Oh, by the way, shout out to Asbury Park Brewery. Thanks for the
great show.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, Bruce Springsteen is one of my influences. The last Miserable song I just did with Emmett Kai produced it. Check out his music. That was influenced by I'm on Fire by Bruce Springsteen. I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. I have a couple Bruce Springsteen tattoos for those who don't know me.
Wow.
Nebraska is one of my favorite records by Bruce Springsteen.
I never knew this.
Yeah.
How about you, Isaac? You're a Bruce guy?
I like Nebraska quite a bit.
Oh, it's so fucking good.
So this is what we're listening to in the crib while we're quarantined, just Nebraska on repeat.
She wishes. What are we listening to?
What are some of your favorite composers, since we're talking about me?
Well,
classical.
In the classical world?
Yeah.
Arvo Pärt,
Yeah.
Henrik Gorecki,
Arvo's man.
Penderecki, everything. There's old, if you dig back in the catalogs of a lot of these people, man, they were doing such incredible stuff. The stuff that kind of floats to the top and sticks around, like they were making, like even the most famous composers, they were making those songs. It was basically like a rudimentary or like a proto form of commodity music. You know what I mean? It wasn't stuff that they would necessarily cared about, but the church would pay them for these songs that were really kind of basic to them. They didn't really give too much of a shit about them. And that's the stuff that stuck around because it was recorded, and like not recorded on sound, but it was recorded, like the notation was recorded, and it would be passed on. And then now we have these pieces of music that are kind of fucking boring for a better, lack of a better word. But it's because it was like, at the time, it was just stuff that they could sell to the church or whatever. But if you can go back and, like, for instance, Dmitri Shostakovich's catalog, and like there's stuff like there's such incredible shit if you just go digging. It's just a lot of stuff to go through.
Would you, I think that would be cool if we got like a top 5 list that we could post after this too, for some of our people to like check out, I feel like right now it's just so nice to have, I feel like a lot of people are having these conversations, right? Because they're like, what can I explore? Yeah. And you have to kind of go inward instead of outward,
Yeah, I can give you that really easily.
Hey, 1 second. Okay.
I'll send it over.
The record that I was talking about is Isaac and his identical twin brother's project called MSC. The record's called I Close My Mind and I Lock It.
Yeah.
It's fucking great.
It's on Spotify.
Yeah, it's on Spotify and all that shit.
It's very good. I have checked it out.
Thank you.
And it is Saint Vitus approved. I don't know about getting the sound system in, but we'll figure that out for when we can even worry about it.
We'll do something. We'll make it.
We'll do something.
Yeah.
Wait, can you tell the story of why you chose that name for the record?
MSC.
What up, Rick? What up, Joey? Love you, Joe.
Joey, drummer of King Woman in the building.
Oh! I closed my mind and lock it. Yeah, my father was born in Sao Paulo in Brazil, and his mother, her name is Danuti. She is very old now, but she's like 94, but she's still totally with it. And she was visiting my family when I was in North Carolina around Christmas time or something, and we were just sitting talking, and she's like the sweetest woman on earth. And she was talking about her dogs back in. She stays with her daughter in Texas, my dad's sister, and she was talking about the dogs back at the in Texas and how she couldn't think it. She was just like, I know they're sitting there alone and they're just wondering where I am and I can't stand it. And she said like the most beautiful line. She just goes, I just close my mind and lock it. And I was just like, that's so cute, first of all, but also I just loved it so much. I was like, I'm gonna use that. And then we ended up naming the record that.
I love it. Oh, we got some ill backgrounds. What's up? That's tight.
Oh, man, let's do this one.
No. It's on Ben. Yes, it's on Ben Q.
Yeah,
There was a question we got in the feed that was, what are some favorite books of yours? If you guys want to share a couple of books or anything that you've been reading lately, you know?
He's the Bookworm. I'm reading a couple. I have a book well, he just lent me a book to read, but there's another one I'm reading. I can find it though.
Do you want favorite books of all time, or do you want books that I'm reading right now?
We could do a little bit of both.
Let's
do like a little like favorite of. Oh, let's see what the rec is.
Oh, this is one I'm reading right now.
The Luminous.
Look at the cover.
Stone. Oh, damn. That's hard as fuck.
Lucifer and Western esotericism.
Damn, that is hard as fuck. That looks like it would be like some like black metal band from like Iceland, like a or from Germany, like a Der Weger Weiner Freiheit fucking B-side.
Exactly.
That's incredible. That's not like an easy book for times like these.
It's easy for Chris.
What, this book?
Yeah.
It's just like a heavy topic, like boom, you know.
Isaac goes through so many books.
I'm big guy.
He's always reading. Always.
Yeah.
It's a problem, I think.
It's a problem. He's also an amazing writer.
So I don't know, best nonfiction, fiction? What are we talking about? This is hard.
Dude, wow. No, that's tough. That is tough. Why don't you just go with what you got right now? What are you reading right now? What's on like this your side table?
I'm reading Leroy Jones, who he changed his name to Amiri Baraka after a while when he joined the Black Panthers. So around the 60s, he was kind of known as like a beat poet and stuff, but he's a phenomenal writer, phenomenal poet. I'm going through it. When I read, the first thing that I read for him was called 3 Stories or something like that by Leroy Jones. But you can find him pretty easily by using Amiri Baraka, which is the name he went by afterwards. But he's mainly a poet and a prose writer. And he's just absolutely phenomenal. So I've been stuck on that dude for, at least a few months now. He wrote, I'm reading a full collection of all of his poetry right now called SOS, which is really wonderful. His correspondence with Ed Dorn, which is interesting. There's this Chinese poet that I'm reading right now, from the turn of the century, kind of there was this, before Maoism really took hold in China, the revolutionary movement was was Marxist-ish, but there was a lot of I don't know, it was kind of a weird, Chinese radicalism is really kind of all over the place. But anyway, there was this young guy and he was Marxist, and his name was, I don't want to butcher this.
You can butcher it.
Chu En Lai was his name. It's CHOU.
I believe it. That sounded good to me.
Really wonderful. He's a really cool poet. And then what else? Kathy Acker. I'm rereading this book called Blood and Guts in High School, which is fucking incredible.
We're both reading it now.
Yeah, it's a goodie.
Yeah, that's cool. I like a lot of kind of Octavio Paz, and Joseph Kumunyaka, Neon Vernacular.
Yeah,
one of my favorites. It's more modern poetry and stuff like that. I dip in every once in a while. I think it's sometimes good when you're writing music, or especially lyrics and things like that.
Oh yeah.
To just reading things that just can really blow your mind, just erase the common.
Yeah. It's strange how it works that way. As any kind of creative artist, literature to me is extremely generative in that sense, where it's I don't watch a lot of things, movies and stuff sometimes do it to me or something, but for some reason reading, I've read my whole life, but it's nothing is as generative, especially for music and stuff for me. Usually I read for 3-4 hours in the morning. It's usually I just wake up and get coffee and read for a couple hours, and that if I don't do that, my day is just fucking off, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so rough.
It's a beautiful thing to be able to indulge in now. I mean, we find ourselves in a really heady and rough time, but there's something about maybe climbing a little bit more inwards that we can glean from this time.
Yeah, I love it.
Can you Chris, as far as lyrics for you, Chris, Do they really just kind of come out of like natural experience, or is there anything that you do to kind of like jolt yourself into a little bit of like, oh, I'm in like a writing mood, or is it more like, you know, I know some artists are like, I go to my desk and I write and I try it over and over again, or is it just like I feel it, it comes, and when it's there, I just start fucking working?
I don't really believe in forcing any of that. It just kind of intuitively comes out. I don't have to try too hard. It just, man, how do I turn this shit to the side?
I got you. I'm gonna fix this.
1 second. It's like having a grandma use Instagram.
What are you talking about?
How do I do this?
Oh man, that's great. Yeah, I'm like holed up in like this little spare room of mine. Like I'm like, I got like this wall like right here.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like,
you in the attic, dude?
far away. I'm kind of in like this sort of guest room area that's also was eventually supposed to be turned into like my wife's sort of like study office area. And shout out to Marissa because she's still working. She works for the Department of Education, and it's been a fucking quite the ride for her and for, you know, that whole thing. It's kind of insane to have society kind of turn on a dime to digital everything. So, you know, yeah, I got this little setup right here. This is like the work corner that we got going on. Do you have any other like roommates or anything else like that, or is it just you two?
I live with one other person. His name's Ashton. He's a sculptor.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll waltz in here at some point.
He'll waltz in talking mad shit
yeah,
to all
just
of us.
yelling, yeah.
That's hot.
He's sweet. It's good. I haven't lived here. I mean, I was here a lot when I was touring full time and stuff, and I grew up in North Carolina, in rural North Carolina, so I was like way out. But I was in New York a ton, and then when we like decided to just bounce from the East Coast, we ended up in Portland. It was completely random. I mean, it was either there or Oakland, and it was kind of like flipping a coin almost. And we moved out there. It was me. It was BraveYoung at the time was me and my brother Zach and a guy named Mike Rich, who's played for a couple other bands, Advent and some other North Carolina bands. And then
Advent.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the guys from The Body, Chip and Lee, after we recorded that record, Nothing Passes with them, they moved down to Greensboro with us, which is where we were in North Carolina. And then we all, in like 5 months of them living there, we just all were like, let's just fucking go to the West Coast. So we literally just like chose Portland, and we're like, let's just go to Portland. So we all moved, we toured out there together. And we just did Low Sky, which is a punk band that we did that wasn't BraveYoung, because BraveYoung is kind of hard to tour with and stuff. But yeah, so we went to the West Coast, and I stayed there for like 6.5, 7 years. I mean, Portland's cool. It's really low key, but I ride dirt bikes with Zach, so it's like there's nowhere better on earth to do it than the Pacific.
Yeah, that's definitely like a pretty amazing place for that stuff, especially just, you know, it's like city, and then right outside there's like nothing. So you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Well, it's like the last temperate rainforest in the United States. You know what I mean? It's so fucking gorgeous out there, man.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
it's fun.
Now you're in the concrete jungle, and you're probably struggling for a couple of couple of trees.
I got Animal Crossing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're like, all right, cool. That's pretty hilarious. Kris, you're originally from the Bay Area, correct? That's like home.
I moved around a lot, but I was raised mostly in Sacramento, and then I lived in Oakland and SF, and kind of was back and forth between both those places for a long time.
Do you feel like that really is, you know, kind of like home for you? Like that's like the community that you come from and everything like that? Well, because you've moved around to kind of different bits, but it seems like you've been following your musical journey throughout those different movements.
I feel like I'll live in many places in my lifetime, but Oakland, I would say, is like hometown vibes for me. But then also hometown could also be considered Sacramento, because that's where my parents and my little sister are. And but also New York feels like home because this is where I live, and you know I miss LA sometimes because all my community and friends are out there, and music stuff's all like pretty much in LA. So yeah, I'm just all over.
Yeah, for sure. Which is kind of an interesting thing, because for me, I'm like literally the fucking opposite from both of you. I've lived in an hour and 15-minute radius my entire life. from Long Island, Brooklyn, to Jersey and Brooklyn, and like, you know, everything's been there. I've been a lot of places, but I've never lived anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I was just telling Artie, my business partner in Saint Vitus, I was like, dude, I think this is the longest I've been outside of New York since we went on a European tour with Dillinger Escape Plan.
Yeah.
And he was like, what the fuck? So this whole experience is very strange like that. So the sense of home is a very interesting sort of thing to negotiate. So for people who live all over the place, I'm always like, what's that feel like for you guys? You know?
I would have definitely already booked it out of New York if Isaac wasn't here, because he's like that friend in my life. It's a very calming presence, and I think I would be flipping out not having him here, because my whole family's on the West Coast, and he's kind of like family to me. So I'm just glad that he's here with me during this time, because I don't think I'd be taking it very well.
Yeah, I'm not very concerned. I mean, everything that's happening sucks. Make no mistake. But it's like I'm not too concerned. I don't have like there's like a global kind of anxiety or like an anxious fog. You know what I mean? That everybody's kind of picking up on. But I don't know. I kind of avoid all that. And honestly, I do everything I do is so isolated anyway. Like I write music alone, I write alone, and I read, and that's a lonely endeavor as well. But it's like, other than going out and like partying or something, like this is basically my life already. You know what I mean? Like I can go run and I can like read and write and do what I need to do. So it's almost like everybody just is accidentally living my life now. You know what I mean? It's kind of stressful because everybody hates it so much, and I'm just like, damn, I must be fucked up or something. But
yeah.
Somebody asked about a horror novel that isn't Stephen King. I don't read a lot of horror. I don't know if Kris does, but I don't read a lot of horror. But there's some very frightening things, especially. I don't know if you read any Southern Gothic stuff, but like Faulkner and stuff like that. But Flannery O'Connor was a writer from Georgia in the 30s, and she died really young. But she has a collection of short stories that's really, I mean, you should read as much Flannery O'Connor as you can. She wrote A Good Man Is Hard to Find, which is one of her favorite, or one of her most famous ones. But there's a short story that is extremely fucking distressing that she wrote, because she wrote violence really well. A lot of Southern Gothic stuff was spooky in that way. It's called A View of the Woods. You can find it probably pretty easily in one of her short story collections or something like that. But I remember that story fucking me up. There's also a lot of Cormac McCarthy stuff that is really fucking frightening.
Yeah.
So brutal. And I think that in that regard, it's like what you kind of consider to be like, quote unquote, like horror, right? There's like a kind of more like kind of like blood and guts, grotesque kind of like vibe. And then I think that there's this more like human attrition, growth, grinding thing. And that fucking kills me. That fucks me up. I'm like, that's the stuff that just it gives me that feeling more so than like, okay, cool, we cut the dude in half with a chainsaw. Yeah. Like,
well, there's one shorter Cormac McCarthy novel. It might even be considered a novella, but it's called Child of God. That's the most atrocious thing he ever wrote. I mean, it's fucking horrific. I would say do Child of God.
Child of God. That's the one that we're starting with, Child of God, and then you could go down from there.
Yeah. Kafka can be spooky, but that's still heady as fuck. Has a lot to do with memory and stuff.
Yeah, for real. I'm saying. I think I gotta move from my first. I'm about half mast.
I'll follow
you. These last an hour or so. I can't squeeze in a whole tall boy in another 15 minutes, but we'll see what we can do. You're gonna hide over here?
Oh, I just don't like my face being.
Should I cut in some bangs?
You guys, I cut my own bangs. It was
idea. Dude, I'm kind of with it. I feel like you're doing like a quarantine kind of different cut. I'm fine with it. I think it's great. I think you're just expressing the times.
Okay.
Because there's gonna be a lot of self grooming.
Isaac was like, put down the scissors, Kris. How do I see, what's this question? The question for all of you, what do you see happening to music as a result of the virus besides streaming? I mean, we're not able to tour. We can't really, a lot of artists make their money from touring.
Yeah, I think that that's like a twofold question because you know, Kris is an artist. She relies on most of her income for that. I make music, and I'm an artist as well, but I own a venue, so I'll take it from my side. But Kris, continue. Like as an artist,
Me and
most of
Isaac
your money
also,
is touring, right?
me and Isaac were also in the process of opening a coffee shop and a bar, and that's on hold right now because of all this. Just bad timing.
Yeah.
It's really the hardest part for me with all this. You know, I'm concerned for my parents because they're older, but also, you know, people that just don't have an advantage during this time, like people with like autoimmune issues or older people, or you know, low-income families, or
Yeah.
artists that are relying solely on touring. You know, it's all stressing me out, and
Yeah, and at the moment too, with the economy disrupted and stuff like that, anything that you're doing, like putting out records or doing things of that nature too, that kind of gets put on pause because.
I mean, I'm about to put out a Sugar High record with my really good friend Darcy Bayless. I'm not gonna not put out music. Like, people want to listen to music right now. It's like I'm still gonna keep doing. I'm gonna do. You know, I'm still gonna keep living my life to the best of my ability. You know, in the areas I can't, such as touring. Yeah, I won't, but I do have a record that's coming out at the end of April, and I don't know how things will be.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't. I mean, and that's like kind of the uncharted territory of it all. I mean, from like a venue perspective, you know, at Vitus and stuff like that, it's like, you know, I had to reschedule 70 something events, and
Dude, I can't imagine.
What's up, Russ?
Yeah,
McCarthy. He's right. Dude.
I can't imagine what you're going through right now, dude. My heart.
Yeah, it's. I think
Can you
the whole
donation thing one more time?
Yeah, the donation thing is our Venmo is Saint-Vitus-Bar.
It's
and
backwards, but
I know. I didn't really think of it because I wrote it kind of for me. But look, let's see if I can get it. You know, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll get it this way. I don't know.
No.
But there's that, and basically it's Venmo at Saint-Vitus-Bar. And also our merch store is totally open. So if you go to saintvitusbar.com and you want to get like a slick little hoodie or something like that to kind of deal with like the cold and rainy days that are ahead, feel free. But yeah, I mean, on our end, you know, I feel like the whole industry is just moving towards thinking that we could do more and more in the back half of the year. But that's also kind of difficult because, well, A, we all don't know, right? No crystal ball. But B, there's so many great shows that were supposed to happen, and then you put all of those shows on top of the shows that were supposed to happen. And right now, it's like the calendars are really pretty tight. I mean, there's room, but they're pretty tight. And then if you take like touring kind of goes in seasons, right?
Yeah, and you
like
plan like 6 months to a year ahead of time to even like prepare. It's just like
exactly.
God,
So
we don't even know how long shit's gonna be shut down for, or people.
Yeah. So we're trying to make plans, right? We're all trying to make some plans as far as the live thing, but there's not like that critical juncture where you're like, yeah, after August 1st, it'll be fine. There's like nothing like that or whatever. So I've done my best to postpone and reschedule a lot of shows, you know, and, you know, thank you everybody. If you do have tickets for your shows, for having some patience. Don't try and refund everything right out the gate. A lot of us are working on, you know, putting shows that you have tickets for already, rescheduling, doing that, and it's a tremendous amount of work to do in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's pretty much that. And then, you know, and then there are all these artists that have skipped out on certain income that like want to go back out on tour again, right? Like,
well, they can't even do their regular jobs because everybody got laid off from their fucking regular jobs.
Yeah, it's a total quagmire, you know, and then who knows what people, you know, hardworking people can spend on like go a night out as well, you know. So there's a myriad of factors that are kind of going to go into it. But I think, Kris, what you said is very, you know, like pertinent and important is that like, despite all of this fucking shit, is like people want music, they want it and like they need it, and it's a time for great artistry too, you know. A lot of people are out there paying attention, listening, and like, you know, that kind of like needs to flow. Think about it. We're all just consuming music right now, right? Like we're sitting at home. Like I went on a run today and I was listening to like Blueprint by Jay-Z and just like going, and then And then like, you know, earlier this morning I was listening to Big Brave, and then I was delving into like, you know,
Yo, I saw them live.
some budgie records.
That was one of the most.
Big Brave's the best. They're the homies.
They
So
were fucking
Bravissimo.
amazing live.
I'm so into their last record. It's amazing, and honestly, it's been something that we are working on a show for them, and we're just trying to figure it out, you know. But they're great.
I think we should also talk about Rent Strike.
Oh yeah, if it's possible for
Yeah, sure. We got about like another 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
So we could definitely jump into that. The whole world is hurting, and
I mean, it's nothing new though. I mean, this is new. Clearly this is new. A new kind of like something happened that like I don't think anybody could have seen coming. But it just like I had written up a little thing and got a friend to work on a really talented design friend to work on a flyer for that, which is the Rent Strike that's on my page. You might have seen it, but it's basically it's kind of like calling attention to something that like if you paid attention or had time paying attention, like I've studied radicalism and anti-capitalism my whole life. It's not something that I like. It's not the forefront of my like social presence or anything like that, but it's just something that I've dug into since I was very young. It's 12 or 13 years old. I don't know how I got locked into that world, but I've never seen like something. It's called like class consciousness, basically, which is like the idea that we're not struggling, like we're not temporarily embarrassed millionaires. Like we're the working class. You know what I mean? Like we don't have what we need. You know what I mean? And we're surreptitiously it's taken away from us consistently. And there's systemic things that put these things in play. You know what I mean? It's not something. It's not abstract. It's not anything. We see it every day. I mean, the fact that you know you could have a job at McDonald's in the early 70s, and you could have enough money to start a family and save up to buy a house. Like that's not a joke. That happened.
And pay for healthcare, right, and like live like an average life.
Right. So we're always told that we're like living a really privileged time and stuff, but it's like it's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like we're the first generation that are poorer than our parents. We're the first generation that are dealing with climate crisis, the kind of offsetting of the climate crisis. We're the first generation that is dealing with like a mental health crisis and a debt crisis. You know what I mean? And it's like, so, I mean, we're in so many ways, you know, quantifiably worse off than our parents. And people still, they have this idea about money and wealth that like, it seems to not really line up with like, hey, like this, I know everybody wants to be rich, but like, does no one want to think about it like a world in which being rich wasn't the ultimate good thing to be? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like
maybe a world where a lot of people can get by, you know, and have an opportunity.
By, right?
Everyone
you know,
can live.
Yeah.
I think what this condition has really done in many ways, from like a personal way or to like in a very public way too, is it's laid a lot of these things bare, right? It's stripped away a lot of things like that you might be interested or can do or whatever. It leaves you with yourself, and it has also left us, I think, with a collective view of like how much we either have or don't have.
Yeah.
And I think that just very easily is something to be seen, and a lot of people are seeing it right now, where people are asking, right? There's a bill right now that's saying suspend rent, suspend mortgages in New York.
And the idea of a strike is to say like, if we organize and say like, regardless of whether or not you have, which it's rare that someone has this, in as far as the people that I know and hang out with, like, I don't know anybody that doesn't really, I mean, I know a couple people that might be able to get by for a month or two, you know what I mean? But like, without any income, but like, most of the people that I know, let's say 95%, are living paycheck to paycheck. See, like that's it. You don't have, when work disappears for a month, like you simply don't have the money to pay rent. You know what I mean? So in that sense, if there's some solidarity developed between people and literally no one pays rent, I mean, the idea is not like, I'm going to try to make sure that, you know, it doesn't come back on, you know, me when and I get an eviction notice and then it's with me forever and all that stuff. Like I understand all that's scary, but the bigger idea I think is that if everybody comes together and organizes and says we're not paying rent, then there's really nothing they can do. They can't mass evict people.
Mm-hmm.
They can't. I mean, it's really the only power that we have in our position is the power of numbers. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's more about like having empathy for people that don't have as much, and even if you are able to get by, you have a small savings chunk, or your fucking parents pay your rent or whatever. Like, it's still like saying like, no, I'm not going to pay rent until people can go back to work, and until the suspension of rent and mortgage goes through, because the state can do that. The government can absolutely say like, no.
And it's also, this condition that we're speaking of is happening in other parts of the world as they go through this crisis. The suspension of rent, this free healthcare, all these things. So these aren't even things that they don't exist per se. They exist in this situation currently in other countries. So for maybe, you know, some of our friends in the concept, you know, in the comments who are like, hey, how could that happen or whatever? It can happen in various ways, and it does exist. So is it possible? Absolutely. It's absolutely possible. And, you know, as far as everything that, you know, has been said about, you know, kind of collectivizing action, it's a hard thing to do in times like these when you can't get people together. So it'll be an interesting sort of thing, but
it's whoever you're around. Like, I'm in a building, you know, at this space in Brooklyn. Like, I live in an apartment building, and it's like the first step is to start speaking to everyone in there, whether it's dropping a note under everyone's door or exchanging emails and starting an email chain and saying like, and then getting together and saying like, listen, our landlords, if none of us pay rent and we demand this, then like they have to go elsewhere, or they can't just mass evict us. It's not going to happen. And like we basically have to find a way. This is what it is when we say about working towards something new. Like, this is the work. You know what I mean? It sucks because work sucks. But like,
and the sacrifice. Right.
I mean, every bit of work is sacrifice, because you're sacrificing your fucking time. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
it's like, if nothing else, it's just like, this is, when we talk about wanting a different world, like, this is the work we have to do to get it. You know what I mean? It's just about like talking to anybody that you can, anybody that will listen, do stuff online, sure. But the most important thing is like, the world, I mean, it constantly wants us to think that we're alone. I mean, that's what alienation is. It's like, no one's going to listen. No one gives a shit.
We're all together right now.
This is it. We're all fucking together. So it's just like, just do it, get together and fucking say, this is what we demand.
Is there any information or any resource you would like to direct anybody to who is thinking about this? Yeah.
So there's on my Instagram, which is @Wonnerful, which is WUNNERFUL. You can, or I'm on Kris's page. You can just find me somewhere on there. But there's a link to the drive. There's like a shared drive folder basically, and it has a ton of literature and scripts for people. Housing Justice for All in New York, which is a thing that AOC has been rattling on about the last few days, because she's becoming a big part of this. They're called scabs. Working that's a different conversation, but I definitely would talk to you about it if you emailed me or messaged me or something. @Wonderful. Thank you, David. There's a Google Drive link on there, and you can click on that, and it takes you to a shared drive. You can download graphics and stuff to print, and you can have stuff to share online. And also, it has the scripts to call your representatives and stuff. I'd recommend reading those so that you can get talking points to talk to other people. You know what I mean? Like, because of course, there's going to be a lot of people that are like, I don't like this. This doesn't sound right or whatever. Just you're using a bunch of boogie words and stuff. You know what I mean? If you drop capitalism, like the problem with capitalism in a conversation, like, bet, no one's going to fucking pay attention. So it's like, there's ways to talk about these things which, are more oriented towards people understanding. But there's some scripts in there. And obviously, if you're in New York, or in New York State in general, all the representatives' numbers and everything are in that Google Drive doc, and it's pretty spelled out.
Cool. So we got like another 2 minutes. I just wanted to say thank you everybody for watching this. It's been really, really fun. Donate to Saint Vitus. Check out what Isaac and Kris are up to musically and activist-wise. And thanks a lot. DC out.
Bye.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
What up, Ash?
It took me a lot.
Take care, guys. Stay tuned.